being able to represent Britain, helping make history. It was really powerful. People would come up and say, we didn't expect Alice Dearing to look like that. I was like screaming inside, I was so excited. It's great having people at the Olympics, but it is about keeping people alive.
The Rugby Rising Locker Room.
Hello and welcome to the Rugby Rising Locker Room in partnership with Mastercard. I am Maud Muir and this is Sadia Kabeya.
Today our chat is all about female role models and we are joined with our lovely guest, Alice Dearing.
Hey.
In 2021, Alice became the first black woman to represent Great Britain in the water. She competed in the Tokyo Olympics in the 10K marathon race.
Oh, sorry, that is
yeah, that is a long old time.
That is a long old race.
So is it a 10K and a marathon or 10K marathon?
10K marathon, yeah.
Oh, wow.
So, because it's a similar time that it takes a marathon runner to run that we swim, so they call it, yeah. So it takes us like 2 hours for the women and 150 for the men. So obviously it's like a fast marathon, right, yeah. But yeah, it's the marathon swim.
Crazy, I could never. I struggle with one length, honestly.
Yeah, me too. She also co-founded the Black Swimming Association, an organisation set up to diversify the world of aquatics.
In 2022, she was named the Sunday Times Changemaker of the Year. We could not ask for a more inspiring role model to join us today. Speaking about female role models, you've been the change that you wanted to see. What do you think makes a good role model?
Oh, straight in.
Sorry,
right?
yeah, straight in.
I love it. Okay, I think what makes a good role model is someone who is kind of unapologetically themselves and not afraid to like step out of their comfort zone. And I think one thing about athletes is I don't think every athlete should be held accountable for being a role model, if I'm being completely honest. I don't think just because you play a sport, it means that you're suddenly someone should like have to look up to in society. I think if you put yourself in those positions and, you know, have some difficult conversations sometimes, try and make positive change, then I think that kind of qualifies you into being a role model. It's a bit scary sometimes you see some of the role models that especially young boys kind of look up to. I don't want to give any shout outs to them because they don't deserve that kind of time, but it's scary, and just because they do a sport to a high level, people think that's someone that they should look up to. I just don't, the two don't always line up. So it's not an easy thing to do or to be, but a lot of people are trying to make positive change. So it's like a worthy title for some people, yeah.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. Let's talk about how you started with swimming.
Okay, so I first learned to swim when I was 4 years old and then got into competitive swimming when I was 8 years old. And this was because my mum wanted me and my second eldest brother to do some kind of sport. She didn't know what, but me and him, we were doing our lessons still at the swimming pool. She saw the notice board for that club and just emailed them saying that she wanted to bring us along for a session on a Sunday afternoon. She didn't ask either of us. She was just like,
you're
going. Yeah, she was like, you are going swimming on Sunday. And I was like, but I swim on Tuesdays. And she was like, but no, this is a swimming club. And I was like, I don't want to go. And she was like, well, you're going. Anyway, we both went along and fell in love with it instantly. We got out, we were both so happy, and we were asking when we can next come back. And so we went back next Sunday, and it just ends up snowballing into this like career somehow. It gets full on quite quickly in sport, as you both know. Yeah. I got this scholarship to a private school. It's called the Royal Wolverhampton School, and I started there when I was 12. Whilst I was there, I became like European junior champion. I qualified for my first British teams, and then moved on to university at Loughborough. Was there for like 8-9 years, which is like you'd say so. It is.
People become the locals.
I became the local. Yeah, I really enjoyed being there, really special place, and took my swimming career to new heights.
Oh, amazing. Alice, tell us how it felt to represent Team GB.
Honestly, it was like, can't quite believe that that's something that I achieved. When I was younger, like, kids used to talk about, you know, wanting to go to the Olympics or like making British teams. And I was always like, nah, I'm not interested. Because you hear these horror stories of like the amount of training that they have to go through. And I didn't realise there was a whole like steps that you go through, you know. Like it's something that I kind of would daydream about, but would put it to the back of my mind quite quickly of just like, Alice, be realistic. Like a lot of people don't make it. It wasn't even anything to do with my race or anything like that at all. I just didn't think I would be good enough or have the talent or the work ethic or all of those things. So I was happy to prove myself, my younger self wrong in a way. Getting to that point of being able to represent Britain at Olympic Games was really so special for me, and especially with the added like kind of bonus of helping make history and trying to bring about like a cultural and social change in society to hopefully make things better, was really powerful. And I was really upset with my performance at the Olympics, actually. I came out of it, I was like crying on my interview afterwards. And upon reflection, I wish I'd been kinder to myself, because, you know, I did only get that one shot at it. I was hoping to make Paris. It didn't work out for me, and that's why I retired. But it's been a true pleasure and honour to represent Britain at that level, and you know, fly the flag high, hopefully get more people into it, hopefully people just see that there's a woman with like an afro, you know, not that I wore it as an afro because I needed it braided down just so there wasn't as much drag, but yeah, if you look on my Instagram, there's an afro there. So just seeing a woman that potentially represents them in some way is really special for me.
Such a cool journey that you went on. We were just wondering, like, did you have any role models growing up?
Yeah, so I guess two people like stand out to me instantly. One of them was my mum. She did everything for me, like you know, getting up at 4:30 in the morning to take me training, these long weekends at pools. I think she even got like low-key chlorine poisoning. Like she was always coughing. Like bless her. Just sat on poolside for so long. It obviously wasn't agreeing with her. And she really put in the most for my swimming career, especially up to age 18. After that, like I kind of like took it on myself and was like, okay, if I need to stop relying on my mum, I need to grow up at some point. But she's been my rock for the longest time. And then the other one who's like, it's always like a stereotypical one, but I think it's because she's just the GOAT, is Serena Williams, of course. But do you two have anyone?
Definitely my mum too.
Yeah.
Same thing with rugby. Like I'm not from a rugby family at all. Picked it up completely randomly, and so the drive into training and, you know, long nights and long days away, going to games. When I was picking up a new sport, mum had completely no probably interest in, had no clue what was going. Didn't want to see me get smashed on the weekend, but she would do it because she knew that I was enjoying it. So definitely my mum, it would be a huge one.
Yeah, I think for me, I literally didn't watch any sport growing up. Like I just did rugby because I loved it. But probably as I got older, there was a prop that plays for England, Vicky Combra, that really like took me under her wing. Saw her on the weekend, actually. She's now got twins. Like, she's a trailblazer for the game. Like, she's an incredible woman. Yeah, so probably, although it was within the last few years, she's a real big role model for me.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. I think that's what's exciting about role models. They can be like for a certain part of your life, and then they can move into it being like, whether you're an adult or something like that. Like, there's never like they're always relevant. There's always a period in your life you can relate to somebody like that. That's really nice.
So talking a bit more about, obviously, role models and swimming, was there any role models you had that kind of looked like you, or people who you could relate to, whether that was culturally or physically? And then in that, was there also a lack of diversity that you felt within the sport as well?
When I really got into swimming as a child, we would watch like Commonwealths, Europeans, World Championships, any bit of swimming that was on the TV, we were watching it. And I would have never really noticed the lack of diversity until I saw a black person swimming. And then that's when I realised. And I was like, oh, that's me. One woman called Alia Atkinson. She is a Jamaican swimmer. She's since retired, I think maybe in 2016 or maybe a little bit later. But she did breaststroke, sprint breaststroke. Not my event at all, like completely far removed from being a marathon swimmer, like opposite ends of the spectrum. But she was always really cool, really smiley, just really happy to be there. And I had the delight of meeting her at the Paris Olympics just recently. And like, we both kind of knew each other, and I was like, and she was like, I was like screaming inside. I was so excited. And she was just as cool as I imagined, like just as nice and kind. And it was one of those real like great moments where I've been able to like watch her on TV and always cheered her on, despite like obviously being Jamaican, but just really, really nice, like a full circle moment for me. But yeah, in terms of diversity in swimming, as I was growing up, like I said, I kind of didn't notice it. I was very sheltered, being from Birmingham, very diverse area. So all of the clubs that I was at, there was always another family of colour, whether they were Asian or black, whatever it was. But when we went to open meets, like if that family didn't go, all of a sudden I was like one of the only, or like the only. Yeah. And it's kind of funny looking back on it, but it was always really easy to pick my mum out in the audience because it was just, she was the only black woman sat there. So we also had people come up to her at one point and say, we didn't expect Alice Dearing to look like that. And I didn't understand it.
Interesting.
Yeah. And now I've got older and I've realised it was probably a racial aspect because Alice Dearing doesn't give any indication to my heritage.
But what people would stereotype
exactly.
your heritage to sound like.
Yeah. We just thought it was to do with my appearance, as in like not to do with my race, just the fact that I was petite. And then it wasn't until I got to like 15 years old and I said to my mum, I was like, do you think it's because of my name and my race and that they were approaching you, even though they didn't know her at all, and putting two and two together? Yeah. And then I was kind of like, oh. And like, I'm really happy that me and my mum were that naive. Maybe my mum actually knew it at the time and didn't want to say to me. But I was really happy I was very naive to it because I never had to think about that stuff, and no one should ever have to think about their race or how they fit into a group, especially when it's as open as a sport like swimming. There was an incident when I was 17 years old where a coach, which I had never been coached by, had no affiliation with, called me a racially derogatory word to another swimmer. The other swimmer came and told me, and I reported it to my school and my swim team, and then this whole thing got opened up. But anyway, I remember I told my mum about it, that it happened, and that I told the school. She just left it. She didn't talk to me about it. And then I told her that I had the chance to take it to the police. I decided not to because it was one person's word against the other. Yeah. I was so over it. I was like, I don't want this. And then that was it. We haven't spoken about it. And I'm really happy that we didn't dwell on it. And I know that's not always the approach that you should take. Sometimes you do need to like stand up and speak about injustices that are happening, but I feel like I'm doing that now. But at the time at 17 years old, I was just on the cusp of making my first world's team at the senior level, and you just don't need it. Like no one needs it, right? But especially a 17-year-old girl. So I think the approach that we had of being a bit naive, a bit sheltered, really served me well in the sport because, and like I said, I make it sound like it was negative. I didn't really have any other experiences beside that, which I'm really happy to say, but it could have, if we had seen it through that lens at any point, it could have drastically changed my approach to the sport and potentially pushed me out of it.
Yeah, sure. That's really interesting to hear actually, because I had similar, not experiences, but only now when I look back, I started rugby, started playing it with the women's like 3-4, maybe 5 years ago now. And when I first joined my club, I was just excited to be there. Like didn't like, you know, take knowledge of how different I looked or what I sounded like or what I listened to. And it's not until I look back that I was like, maybe that comment there was a bit off. Or maybe when I played my music and someone said, turn that off when I'm playing, I don't know, a bashment song. And I think about it and I'm like, ooh. But when I was in the moment, you know, you're just doing it to enjoy the sport. And I feel like if I was aware of it, and that might have been my breaking point where I just go, oh, actually, rugby's not for me.
Yeah.
But now that I'm aware of it, I'm like, I'm gonna make it kind of clear and aware of it now. So girls have to go through that.
Now that you're mature enough, because that's the thing. I feel like you develop into be able to having these conversations. If that makes sense. Like, it's not an easy thing for like a 20-year-old or an 18-year-old to speak about. I started speaking about it when I was 22, and now I look back and I think, oh my God, that was brave. Like 22 is like young, but obviously you feel old at the time. But it's good to know that you were protected as well, because it's not an easy thing for anyone to be able to navigate.
It's hard as well because at the time you want the people or what the event that has said those sorts of things, you want them to know, no, that's not right. Yeah. But then also you don't want it to create a bigger issue and you don't want it to affect your career. Yeah. But you also want them to know, no, you can't say that. So obviously you've been retired for, is it just about a year?
Yeah, nearly a year.
And you work in the Black Swimming Association. Would you be able to tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, so I'm a trustee and a lead ambassador as well as a co-founder. We basically are looking to promote the safety and inclusion of Black and Asian minorities in the UK specifically at the moment, but it's with a global approach. For example, we're currently doing a bit of research around floating, where there's this stereotype that black people can't float effectively, that we sink when we get into water and therefore we should stick away from swimming completely. And it's giving our community this opportunity to learn how they float, but then also taking the research of how do people float. Another thing, that, one of the major things we do is our program called Together We Can, and it's like a water orientation course. It takes place over 5 weeks, and it's for people who have never really had that opportunity to swim, never been into a swimming pool, have like severe aquaphobia or trauma attached to water, and it's not about teaching them to swim, it's about teaching them to feel happy and comfortable in water primarily, and then leaving them in a place where they can learn to swim later on. And from it, we've even had people become swimming teachers who have started the programme, learned to swim and then became swimming teachers. It's a really nice cycle, and we're looking to be the bridge between the our community, so Black and Asian communities, and the aquatic sector, making sure our voices are represented.
Yeah, and I guess swimming is such a unique sport because it's a life skill. Exactly. It's not just a sport. Yes. Like, you actually need to know how to swim so that you don't drown.
Exactly,
and destigmatising it as well.
It's that thing, I'm constantly saying, like, everybody can swim, everybody has the ability to be able to swim. You just need to find those opportunities when they're given to you, take them and run with them, because it is so expensive, and that's another thing that, of course, affects anybody of any race and any background, is how expensive it is to swim.
Are you also the founder of Soul Caps?
Oh, no, I'm not the founder. I am partnered with Soul Cap.
Okay,
yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
You did work with them.
Yes,
Can you speak a little bit about that?
Course,
because obviously in rugby, I've been doing a bit with basically trying to get a scrum cap with a satin layer, which is basically a cap that covers your ears and your hair, which is just like it's a small thing that removes a barrier that doesn't need to be there. That things people don't necessarily think about, whereas with people of colour and people with curly hair and stuff like that, it's a big thing.
We need to protect your edges.
You don't want to be bald by the time you're 30.
Getting that hairline snatched.
Yeah, but if you could speak a bit about that too, it'd be really interesting to know.
Definitely, yeah. So Soul Cap, I started working with them in 2020, and basically all they do is they create larger swimming caps. And I say that like really simply because it sounds like such like a groundbreaking idea, but then you think like, why is it? Like, why is it until I was 21 years old or 22 years old, I couldn't really get my hair into a swimming cap unless it was like plaited down like really well, or I was willing to just get it absolutely soaked because the cap wasn't going to fit properly. So I've been working with Soul Cap for, oh my gosh, I guess coming up to 5 years now. It goes so fast. They're a really cool brand, Black owned, and just looking to remove this barrier for Black people, but also for like Asian, white, like I think it's something that everyone could kind of use and need regardless of your race.
Yeah, I hope Sads follows through with her scrum cap.
Hopefully,
are you like trialing it? What's happening?
Yeah, so I'm working with a brand. We've just been going back and forth with fabrics and stuff, because obviously when it goes through that machine, the first run through we did, it came back and it was not like silk or satin anymore, and I was like, well,
what's the point?
This is not the point. So just trying to kind of get the right thing. But yeah, like you said, it's just kind of removing tiny barriers.
I bet the satin layer will probably catch on. Like a lot of people will probably want that, because I imagine it's more comfortable as well. Yeah.
Don't wear my scrum cap anymore, do I?
Yeah, more did.
I used to wear a bright pink scrum cap.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, stand out. Be bold.
Yeah, exactly.
So you kind of touched on how not everybody automatically is a role model just because you're in the limelight. Do you see yourself as a role model?
I do and I don't. It sounds really bad, but I don't feel like I achieved enough to be a role model. I know that sounds like crazy.
I think you did.
Yeah, I think you
have and continue to.
But it's that athlete mindset, isn't it? Because I'm like, well, I did bad at the Olympics, so like, and then you kind of so like, it's a weird one. I don't like to call myself one because it sounds really like too big-headed, a bit too grand. I see how the things I've done, like, people can look up to, and that I'm always yapping about getting more people into swimming, trying to continue this conversation. I don't want it to die out, because it is about, like, it's great having people at the Olympics, that's amazing, but it is about keeping people alive at the primary level. Being a role model comes with a lot of responsibility, and that's why I like to kind of shy away from it a little bit, but I'm just trying to be like my authentic self, but also show people that you can swim and that I've had an amazing time in the sport and that it can be for everybody.
Lovely. And well, even in this short period of time, I feel inspired, honestly.
Oh, thank you.
So amazing. We now have a question from one of our viewers where we offer some priceless advice in partnership with Mastercard.
The question is, I'm struggling to find accessible female role models, players and coaches to look up to. What would you suggest?
So I'd suggest off the bat, just don't stress about it too much. I know that sounds a little bit negative, but I mean in the sense of you can end up being what you want to see. You can be that change. You can be that role model that you would have liked to have looked at when you're 15 years old. And it's not always that simple. There is difficulty with that. You have to find people who are going to support you. And I think that's one of the main things that's been really beneficial for me, is having a support network who are willing to uplift you. And they might not be that role model, but they can help you become that role model if you feel like that's something you want to do. But if you don't want to do that, I'd say potentially look at other sports. There's always somebody working really hard in another sport, in another industry, who you can see yourself reflected in. And it is a little bit disheartening when it's not in your sport sometimes. But unfortunately, the way things have turned out, that's just the landscape we're dealing with at the moment. There are a lot of people looking to change that and challenge that, but it's not happening as quickly as we would like, or we can't do it at the snap of our fingers, unfortunately. So I'd say don't be afraid to look into other industries, to look into even someone in finance, for example, is completely out of the sporting industry, but there are people creating loads of amazing paths in so many different industries.
You answered that so well.
Oh, nice, thank you.
Really well.
Thanks.
You literally nailed it on the head when you initially said being a role model is being authentically yourself, even if there's pressure to it or you won't necessarily call yourself that. I think you're doing a great job in that role.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Alice. Honestly, so good to chat to you.
Also, thank you to everyone at home for watching. If you enjoyed, please catch us on more episodes of Rugby Rising Locker Room in partnership with Mastercard. Bye.